I made a post about what procedures can be done in a full facelift, and I got a lot of questions. So I realized that a lot of people still don't understand what a full facelift is. So today I decided to take this time to explain a little better about this set of procedures. So when we talk about full face, we're talking about the entire face. And in this forehead region, what we do is the endoscopic forehead surgery. This is the surgery I perform the most. This is the procedure that, in my hands, the way I operate, gives the best results. It's a surgery that doesn't leave visible scars. Small incisions are made within the scalp, and I'm able to improve the entire forehead area. I can even improve those little wrinkles above the nose, the so-called bunny lines, and the corrugator wrinkles that appear in the glabella region. And we can improve something that's really difficult, which is the sagging on the sides of the eyes. Yeah, this procedure usually goes hand in hand. It complements blepharoplasty, right, which is eyelid surgery. And then during blepharoplasty, I usually combine it with fat grafting, right? I do fat grafting in this area under the eyes. Fat grafting can be done in the wave frame. Tomorrow, we're going to operate on a patient. She's from Rio de Janeiro. Really cool. A patient who came from far away to have surgery here with us in Krishima, and her eyes are quite sunken. She already had a blepharoplasty 8 years ago, and she came to enhance that result. And in her case, we're going to fill in all that hollow area, right? That whole concave part of the eye. And we'll also add a bit of volume to the tear trough region. And then we're also going to create a little bit of volume in the cheekbone area. Usually this area around the eyes, when I need to do this procedure, I do it together with the blepharoplasty. Here in the mid-face region, I would say that in 99% of cases, we end up doing a deep plane, which is that deep plane technique where we access the deep layers starting from the transition line between the two spaces, right? Where the malar area changes from fixed to mobile. And then we're able to mobilize all these structures in the more medial region of the face. And lastly, the neck, right, where we do both the neck lift and the deep neck. It turns out that for the patients who come to me, I end up doing the deep neck much more often, which is when we do that deep structure clearing in the neck, the digastric tract, the deep fat. Sometimes I need to address the submandibular gland. I close up the muscles, and then we do that lateral traction of the platysma. And there are several ways to do this. We really like to do a platysma hammock, which is basically like a net, and we anchor it here on the mastoid, that little bone behind the ear. This is the crevasse technique, which you might see online. These funny little names end up catching on, they become popular, and we end up referring to the techniques by them. But basically, it's the closure of the platysma, the lateral traction with fixation on the mastoid bone. This is the technique I like most for working on the neck. It's not the same for everyone. I do several variations of the technique, but in general, that's how it goes. In 100% of patients, whether they're full face cases, patients coming in just for eyelids, or those coming for a mini lift, I always do fat grafting in all areas of the face that have deficiencies, which can be anywhere from the temples, the cheekbones, the nasolabial fold, this area right here below the corner of the mouth, which we call the paragals. This area is one that almost everyone needs to have filled after the age of 40. And the chin is another area where I usually need to add volume, either to improve the little crease or to enhance the shape, projection, and overall volume of the chin itself. So 100% of patients receive some type of fat grafting. And I believe that treating the skin, which is, let's say, the final step of a full face procedure, is kind of a cherry on top. I always make this comparison with a cake. It's not enough for the cake to just taste good. It also needs to look good. And treating the skin when we do facial surgery is exactly that finishing touch that makes the surgery look beautiful. And one thing I always combine with these skin treatments is nanofat. Nanofat is that purified fat. Nanofat is a skin regeneration treatment. It's not a filler. It doesn't have a volumizing effect. What it does, it's as if I take those cells from that area of the facial skin that are aged and I improve them, I regenerate them, I enhance the quality of those cells in that region of the skin. So the patient will experience a long-term effect. Usually, the final effect of NanoFat takes about 4 to 6 months for the patient to fully notice the results. And after a year, if the patient wants to repeat the procedure, she can do it again. It's not mandatory. We just have to remember that we will always keep aging, and using NanoFat is a way for you to control the aging of your cells. I really like it. I have to admit that I don't usually redo NanoFat procedures on my patients, but, the general consensus in the literature is that after a year, if you want to repeat the NanoFat application, the patient will once again get the beneficial effect of cellular regeneration. Lip lifting, which would be the last step or one of the last steps, is specifically for the lip area. I recommend it for very select cases, for patients who are really good candidates. And who are these patients? They are patients over 50 years old who have very noticeable smoker's lines, who have an elongated distance between the base of the nose and the upper lip, and a very specific indication for me, which is the horizontal smile wrinkle. When the patient smiles, she gets that little horizontal wrinkle right below the nose. For me, that's a clear indication for lip lifting. It's never done on its own. That's another very important point. Doing a lip lifting by itself won't give good results. It won't rejuvenate the patients. You have to combine it with skin treatments, treating the smoker's lines and lip fillers. So, there's no point in lifting if the lips have no shape, if the lip contour is faded, or if the patient doesn't have a well-defined Cupid's bow. So, I believe that beautiful, rejuvenated lips are a combination of features. It's a set of little details. And lip lifting alone won't solve that. Usually, we combine all of this during the procedure, okay? I don't always combine all of them at the same time, but I do address all the signs of aging on the patient's entire face. Guys, this live was really great. I hope I was able to help you understand a little more about my world of plastic surgery, facial rejuvenation, lifting, and I wish everyone an excellent week. Next Monday, I'll be back to talk a little more with you about this topic that I find so interesting. Big kisses and see you next Monday.